Connected to the land with Four Rivers Equipment and John Deere.
Welcome to the Four Rivers Podcast. We are your working partner, and we mean it. Well, today I am sitting here with Jimmy Atencio, and Jimmy is a certified dealer instructor. And in talking with Jimmy before this podcast, you'll see his passion and how important he realizes the industry that he's in is to not only individuals, farmers, ranchers, but also to the United States. And what's neat to me is he's got a ton of experience. He started a dealership. And Jimmy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Fred.
I sure appreciate it. Let's talk a little bit about, you're a certified dealer instructor. So what does that mean?
Oh, what that means is, as far as the dealerships go, I'm going to be the guy that's going to go to the dealerships and get these technicians up to date on the latest technology. Instead of sending them here and there to go to training, it'll save a lot of money, and it'll be more readily available if they can just come to a centralized location and learn some of the latest technology and stuff. It needs to be that the service end of it is going to work hand in hand with the sales and the parts division, because what this will do is this will capstone the technicians. It'll get them to be what they kind of like a black belt on the specific equipment. And so that's going to be my job, is just to train them, get them, keep them sharp on latest technology, and then also understand what's been going wrong. If there's a common situation going on with a piece of equipment, get together and see if we can find a problem or a solution to fix that problem.
That's one of the things that's always blown me about Four Rivers. And it says it in the slogan, but I've had mechanics, I've had you guys as mechanics show up with that awesome truck that's got, it seems like every tool and every, everything in it, and got us back up and running in the past. It's important to have equipment, but it's even more important to have somebody that can keep it running. And we were talking a little bit, your list of credentials is unbelievable. I think I said earlier, I think you could fix anything. And you said, I like to think that. And I thought that was funny. Talk a little bit about, the training that you've had, because I don't want to embarrass you, but you're so good, you're actually training the mechanics. So let's talk a little bit about some of the training you've had in
pressure.
And your experience, because, having a dealership, I think, makes you super unique in the fact that you can look at this from a lot of different angles.
Oh, I appreciate what these technicians are doing. I've been in their situation. I've been in wheat harvest, and I've replaced, bearings and straw walkers, and I know exactly what they go through.
Yeah, in the field, when you've got a farmer breathing down your neck,
right,
going, I'm losing time, I'm losing money. And
you got to have some really good critical thinking and some troubleshooting skills, so that you go out there and you didn't forget something, forgot to bring the oil and stuff like that, because they're dependent on you. That's their livelihood. There's a small window that they got to work through, to get the harvest done. And so I've been through that. I employed people like that when I had my dealership. I know exactly what the dealership needs too. They need guys that really know their stuff and can think on their own and can just do this flawlessly, so that the customer just keeps buying that equipment.
I can't imagine the pressure, because I've had you guys come out and work on, I had an old 40-20. So literally, I think some people don't understand that a mechanic may be showing up and he may be working on a piece of equipment that's 50, 60 years old, or a piece of equipment, that was sold the other day, and maybe somebody didn't know how to set it up, or, didn't grease it correctly and things like that, or need to learn how to set the tracking system. It blows me away. You guys literally oftentimes maybe working on stuff that's 60 years apart, right?
You got to go out there and expect the unexpected. What they describe to you might be something totally different that's really going wrong.
How often do you hear that?
Yeah.
Hey, it's making a noise like this.
Oh, I've had so many stories. Knocks on a tractor and then find out it's the baler that they hook up to is making a knock.
They got a stick in there.
Yeah.
The PTO
You say, I don't hear this knock, and then let me go out there, and then they have it on a baler, and it's the baler bearing making the noise, and it's not the tractor. So there's so many situations. You just got to be patient, and they're just humans. You don't want to belittle them or nothing like that. And it's just very, very important. Like I said, we won't eat if we don't get this equipment. Keep it going. It's just vital to America. And we're talking about construction equipment too. Everything is around building things and growing food. And I feel really privileged to work with this company that sees that.
And I think that's one of the things that sets you guys apart. And in talking to you before the podcast, and I don't know, it's one of those really neat things. You can tell when somebody's excited and takes their job seriously and is proud of it. And even in the beginning of this podcast, you said, this is how those guys make a living. And that's huge to me. I mean, I haven't met, you guys really genuinely care. And especially you, and the fact that when you're training these mechanics, you're saying, hey guys, this is really important. This is vital. This may be on a construction site where they're building a school or a house or anything, but there's money involved. There's people's lives at stake. In the case of farmers, you have a small window. The old saying, "Make hay when the sun shines." If you're down a couple days and then rain hits, you can ruin a whole crop, and that can make a huge difference in your bottom line, or their kids going to school, or making that ranch or farm payment, or I love how seriously, I guess, and the amount of responsibility that you take and see that position entails.
A lot of logistics with harvest or with construction. I mean, a lot of construction companies take bids on the that they get it done by a certain time. If they go past that time, then it costs them money. And so construction is really highly, you're really put under the gun to get that piece of equipment going. And construction and ag is the same way too. You got trucks waiting to load that weed or unload it, and you've got family members that moved down here just to help with the harvest. It's just a lot of wheels moving. So you got to get that equipment going. And Four Rivers takes it very, very seriously to keep that equipment going. And I'm here to help that and make it more efficient. And the techs just need, and they want it. They've been asked, what could they do better? And they said more training, more readily available training.
And it's mechanics right now. And I know you guys, it always blows me away because it seems like there's always a mechanic available when I need one. And I've talked to a lot of other guys that, man, you guys always have a lot going on, but you guys always seem time to jump on and help people out. There's a mechanic shortage across the country right now. I mean, I was talking to some guys that said really the vocational type stuff, whether it's an electrician, a plumber, a mechanic, that's the future because we're losing people that know how to work on things. Is that an accurate statement, or is it really hard to get qualified mechanics right now? I mean, you guys, have positions open.
It is. Back in my day, really, there was no care held in front of me to be a diesel tech, but now there are so many incentives to be a diesel technician, and the money they make. I have students. I've taught for 10 years diesel technology at Northeastern College, and I talk to all these companies, and they come to me and they tell me how many techs that they need. I can use 15. I can use 20. Big companies like big trucking companies, they need a lot. Statistic that I remember when I was with TMC. A couple years ago, 265,000 diesel technology jobs needed to be filled here, and that was 3 years ago.
That's unreal.
I know.
So, I mean, if these guys, if you get a degree in that or you get trained, there's a job. You're not going to have any problem finding a job.
No problem. And if you're committed, and I emphasize that, if you're committed and you got a professional attitude and your knowledge will come with time, but it's good to have some base knowledge on it. You'll make, I don't know how many students I had make more money than me that first year than me being a teacher.
No, just boom, jumping into a job that was ready to go, like at Four Rivers or, some of the big trucking companies that you mentioned.
You can get up to six figures. Yeah. Easy.
Unreal. Just now, there's also scholarship programs at Four Rivers, and this impressed me, and I didn't even know this part of the business. But as I work with Four Rivers, I'm learning more and more about some of the advantages, of either working at Four Rivers or purchasing equipment from them. But talk to me a little bit about a scholarship program. I mean, aren't you guys helping people go through school to get a degree?
College is expensive, and I know this. I just put a daughter through college.
I understand. I put two boys
and
through
nobody
too.
helped me. Nobody helped me. I mean, she had really good grades. We had a few scholarships and stuff like that. But think of this. Intimidation is really high on a student's mind when they graduate, going to a new company, and there's seasoned techs all around them and all that. But with Four Rivers, what they're going to do is just break them in a little bit at a time and get to know them, and then help them through college, tool allotments maybe, and tuition payback and stuff. And as they're doing that, during their breaks and all that, they may be shadowing a a seasoned tech and stuff like that. When they get done and they're finally graduated, it'd be like going home to them. I mean, they'll know these guys, they'll know the who's who and where to park and where their stall's going to be and everything like that. And it takes so much off of that student when they graduate.
Right. You mentioned something there, and I remember hearing about that. There's even tool allotments, and that's huge because getting tools, that's a big thing. I mean, that's, to get good tools is expensive, and there's allotments at Four Rivers will actually help those guys get set up with what they need to do their job and make a lot of money. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're looking for a pretty amazing job to literally get some training, what does that training take? Give me an idea. How long?
To be diesel technology straight out of high school, I would think a good 2-year program, a diesel program, would get you the basics, and you would be successful.
And you could start out 50 to 100,000 is reasonable, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen a wage any lower than 42,000.
Wow,
to begin with, no. And then, like I said, they're not going to start you off at a higher wage. What they're going to do is they're going to assess everything, your productivity and your knowledge, and then if they're a smart company, they will reward you for accomplishments and keep you. And that's my job too, just to keep techs with Four Rivers, keep them knowledgeable, and make their training fun. I know I'm going to be the guy that's going to not let them go to exotic places and get motels and food and all this other stuff, because I've been to a lot of service schools. It's kind of neat to go out there. But you do learn a lot from fellow technicians when you get together from all dealerships get together. You learn a lot more sometimes when you just talk to the other dealerships, techs in those dealerships, and what's going on.
Well, it's amazing to me how much, and I've heard a lot of the mechanics talk about this, a lot of the issues really stem from guys in the field that own the equipment and not doing simple things like greasing. I've had guys tell me time and time again, Fred, maintenance is super, super important, and a lot of the issues
maintenance,
right? Preventative maintenance, and you know what I mean, man. Hydraulic fluid, and you know what I mean, and grease zerks, and making sure you're greasing everything, and checking all your fluid levels. That preventative maintenance, isn't that a huge part? I mean, if you guys could, also train the owners of equipment, to be better, or encourage these guys, which I know you guys do in the field when you're selling the equipment and telling guys, and the salesmen do a good job of that. But wouldn't that cause a lot less issues if guys did that, service it, preventative maintenance in the field, or bringing it into a dealer and getting it periodically checked?
Oh, definitely. And in the trucking division, that is really, preventive maintenance saves downtime and any of it. Just being on top of your oil changes and not going to some discount store and buying oil that's a lot cheaper than what should be going into it. I mean, just staying with OEM oils that is meant for it.
Right.
That'll keep it going. And that's very important, yeah. You might spend some money, a lot of money maybe for initial oil changes, but considering a new transmission or an engine going down on you because you cut corners or you left oil in too long, it's far cheaper to just keep up on everything. Yeah, just keep up on everything.
See, that's what's now. How much does your job entail traveling to all the different? Because there's a lot of different Four Rivers dealers. You know what I mean? Colorado, Wyoming, Texas. You know what I mean? New Mexico. There's a bunch of different dealers that are set up. Do you travel to all those, Jimmy, in your job, or how many of those are you going to?
I expect to, and I kind of want to. I'm from southern Colorado, so I'm kind of familiar with the New Mexico territory. I mean, I lived in Las Cruces in between my freshman and sophomore year, and I baled straw for the Rio Doso racetracks down there.
Oh, yeah.
And so I know Las Cruces, I know El Paso, and every dealership's different. Depends on where they're at. I mean, so one dealership might have combine problems, and the one down south might have different problems, of some kind. So they're all unique. And so I hope to go to each dealership and see what their needs are.
And I love that you have experience in the field. You just mentioned that you were baling some hay.
So, yeah, through a wire Freeman baler. Yeah, where you sit on top of it with two Wisconsin engines, and you just buck back and forth all day long, and that's when it was so hot. You baled late at night, so the leaves don't fall off, and New Holland hay stacker. Like I said, my work ethic came from my parents working on the ranch. Couldn't be in football because I had to do the third cutting of hay and stuff like that. So, and I'm passionate about it, and I always will be.
But that's one of the things, again, and I point this out with a lot of, in a lot of the podcasts that I do with Four Rivers employees, because I think this is so important. You've been in the field, you can relate to the farmer. You've been out there on the tractors, you've been there working on the balers. You understand what guys go through, and the stress of getting it cut and hitting that moisture percentage just right, and having to get it put up, and sometimes during inclemental weather and things like that, it has to be done. So one thing that's impressed me as I do these podcasts with different Four Rivers employees, I mean, I've talked to guys that have cattle operations, hay operations on the side. We talked to a guy that was he has a lambing operation and also competes. You know what I mean? In shows, and you've got that background in hay, and a lot of these guys do. And I think that's one of the key components to what makes Four Rivers so successful, is whether it's from, your side of the business, from repairing those machines and understanding how important it is to get a mechanic on site quickly. Whether it's from the sales side, guys being able to relate to the customer that they're selling to, because they know, they've been on the tractors. They understand how important it is to bale. They understand how important it is to have a working skid steer, or, have that dozer operating, or, as you mentioned, on a construction site, if a guy's down, it's hurting his way of life.
Definitely. And another little advantage, and I feel that I'm bringing to Four Rivers, is we need to start building our own, I call it a food chain. We need to start enticing technicians, young ones, early on. So we're going to work into, as I travel down there, recruiting out of high schools and offering this, this tuition programs and stuff like this, and helping the diesel technology schools. I know when I was with Diesel Technology College, I needed stuff so drastically, but our budgets wouldn't allow us to buy it. I needed a tractor with a computer on it so that we can plug in. Our budgets were limited. We could not do it. So it'd be like teaching somebody how to bake a cake and then go downstairs and not have an oven. You know what I mean? So what good does it do to talk about it and draw it on the board and show a film about it and then go downstairs and you have nothing to apply it to? So hopefully, as we start getting into this, that I will go to these diesel technology schools in the areas of these diesel or these dealerships and start helping build our own food chain, and start with the dealerships there and the schools and the high schools. And that all is with the counselors, high school counselors, to direct kids to be diesel.
So it really starts at the high school level.
I think so. I think junior high is right there at the good age. That's when they're looking. And I've done so many career fairs and high school tours and stuff like that. And I think junior high, or what they call it, middle school now.
Now, where do you think the focus, in the service industry, is right now? I guess, as we look at the service industry, and mechanics specifically, since that's what, you're kind of heading up. Let's talk a little bit about what direction is that service industry going?
I think emissions and electronics are just needing to be kept up. Yeah, the technology, your GPS, your guidance systems, your emission systems, all of that stuff, I think needs to be sharp all the time.
Yep, and up to date on the technology. Because you mentioned something to me earlier, again, before the podcast, and when we were talking, and I want to kind of circle back to that, as you said, a lot of times people think of diesel mechanics, and they think of a guy in a coverall is covered in grease, and this and that, and you said it's really not that way, Fred. No. It's a lot of it is technology and computer systems, and going through and learning codes. So talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people, when they think mechanic, they think of something like that. So talk a little bit about how that's changed, over the years.
Oh, it's the guys that put the little floor mats in and wear the little booties that get into your vehicle and put a laptop and fix it with just a couple pushes of a button where they locate a sensor that went bad. And those are the guys that make money. And don't get me wrong. I mean, the guys that rebuild drivetrains and stuff like that make money too. But this electronic systems will diagnose itself. You just need to know how to use it. And electricity is simple, but it's also complicated, and you just need to learn to think like it, and just do your critical thinking and your troubleshooting. And I hope to polish that. But back to your question, emissions, and it's not dirty anymore. In my opinion, the government should be paying these tractor owners have these new tractors to clean in the air.
Right.
Because the air that's coming out of the exhaust pipe is probably cleaner than the air that's around it that it's going through right now.
It's unreal, the difference. And I know there's been a lot of people that have programs, state of California, for example. I've got some buddies that farm out there, and there was all kinds of programs where they could trade in older, tractors, get newer ones, because it was releasing, less exhaust. And like you said, these newer systems, and I think it's interesting because there's a theme of technology not only helping people run more efficiently, more profitably, but also, and I'm glad you brought it up, the emissions and the technology and the computer systems that are helping diagnose stuff.
Exactly. And there's some programs out there. If you need a rebuilt engine and you have an older engine that's not emission compliant, they put a big core charge on it to make sure that they get that back, and you put the newer engine in with emissions because they want it off. They don't want it in a tractor. They don't want it anywhere. And that they put a high price on that core so they can destroy it. So little by little, all the older stuff is getting deleted, and the one with the emissions is all being implemented. It's complicated. It is, and it does give a lot of problems. And I think that just the right training and everything for the techs to pinpoint what's going on. And it's up to the operator too, just to put good urea in it, keep up on all of the stuff that needs to be done, the filters and all like that, and you should have a trouble-free. Good fuel is so important too with these high-emission engines. Good fuel.
Yeah, don't skimp on that.
Right, yeah, well, there's no sulfur in diesel fuel anymore, and you just got to just take care of it. You got to have good fuel, yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. Again, and I love your passion. I love to talk to somebody that's passionate about what they do, and that to me makes it fun. But if you were to narrow down and say, Fred, this is my favorite part of my job. Like if I said, Jimmy, what's your favorite part? What's your favorite part of your job? If you had to single out one thing and go, that makes me really happy when I'm doing this, or, what would that be?
Oh, wow. There's so many, especially working for this company. I mean, everybody just treated me like I've been gone for a long time, like I'm a family member that's been gone. But I would have to say, I think seeing techs succeed, and if the techs succeed with Four Rivers, then the dealership will succeed, and the parts people will succeed, and everything will succeed. And I think you just got to keep that going. So, and techs are so important. Would you buy a car if you knew that you couldn't get it fixed, properly? Would you? You wouldn't.
No, that's a great, and I think that's a great point right there again that you just brought up, because everything needs to be serviced at some point. And yeah, I wouldn't buy one. And that's one of the reasons that I originally started purchasing stuff from Four Rivers, because I knew they had my back, whether it was in the field or if I brought it there to get it serviced.
Right.
That's a good point. People need to look at when you're investing that kind of money, in a piece of equipment, and it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it can be, a small compact utility tractor or a big baler or a large tractor or a skid steer or a dozer, or excavator, or any of the types, of equipment that you guys work on.
Yeah.
You have to have somebody that has your back on that piece of equipment that you can get to relatively easy, or that'll come to you.
Exactly. And there's so many preventative maintenance programs that Four Rivers does, off season, so the techs can go through the piece of equipment and make sure it's ready for next season, and that pays for itself. Right. They do that every year, and it keeps the techs busy. And there's just so many ways that Four Rivers wants to keep that equipment running good.
Well, let me ask you one other question, kind of in closing here, and this is something that I ask a lot of people: is you've worked on everything, like really across the board.
Oh, I've even done locomotives. I
If it runs diesel, you've worked on it.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
And that's
I feel old. Okay,
don't feel old. I think it's awesome. I love the experience level you have. But if you were to say, Fred, this is my favorite piece of equipment. Do you have one that you just go that you have, like, this is my favorite? Like, it could be a tractor. Doesn't matter if it's a John Deere tractor or John Deere construction equipment. Do you have one that you go, man, I don't know why, but this is just my favorite piece of equipment?
I would have to say I love the big articulated ag tractors.
Nice.
And I've seen, and And there's something that really made me appreciate them more than ever. And down there where I'm from, the fires, and they would have those big tractors with discs on them, loaded up with fuel, waiting. And when there was a fire breakout, I'd see them things back and forth making a fire line like crazy. And the abuse that they took, but they would save acres and acres of wheat, those big tractors. But that's just a small part of why I appreciate them. I mean, I just like the way they look, and I've always...
And the turning radius on articulating.
Yeah, and the technology that's in them now. I mean, I worked on some of the old stuff and the old crab steering ones, and I mean, the technology in them right now. But I've seen wives chew out husbands, they're thinking that they didn't work on the tractor when they did. They didn't even get dirty. They've been out there all day, and they come back to eat lunch, and they're clean as they were when they left. And so the wife gets mad at them because they think that they went to town for something, to the bar. And he goes, no, I was out there. So you don't even get dirty. You don't sweat. This tractor's got refrigerators in them and seats that massage you and heads-up display coming. I mean, they're just... I would love to sit in one of these tractors. And you don't even have to steer them anymore. I mean, it's all GPS guided. You just got to be afraid of falling asleep, really.
See, and I would come in, I had an old open cab.
That's what I did.
An old 4020, and I would have sunglasses on, and I would come in covered with dirt. I looked like a raccoon. I would take off my glasses, and I had white eyes, and that was about it. And I could take my shirt off, and I'd have that dirt line around my neck and, around my arms. And, to me, I guess that's one of the fun things. And Jimmy, I appreciate you coming on with us today.
Thank you, Fred.
So the next time you have a piece of equipment worked on, know that here at Four Rivers that Jimmy Atencio probably is going to have a hand or some input in helping get those guys trained up. And I appreciate everything you do. And more than anything, I appreciate how much you care and the experience level you have in the field because you've been in that position.
I appreciate it, Fred, and couldn't be happier. Thank you for doing this.
I appreciate you, man, and good luck in everything you're doing.
Thank you.